Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another live broadcast on your favorite football updates channel. It's a pleasure to be back with you on this beautiful Sunday morning / Saturday evening, depending on wherever it is that you could be joining us from. It's 24 minutes past the hour of midnight when I come to you live for our late night broadcast that is meant to kick off at 11 p.m. East African time. And the reason for that is simply because I had to wade through not a mountain of traffic, but almost immovable traffic just to exit where I had watched the game from. So that is what caused the delay and eventually getting home a bit late. etc. Abdul Wahid, good to have you back. How are you doing? I hope you're okay. Unfortunately, you didn't win the £5, but nearly. I understand, reluctant gamer. Anyway, but nonetheless, I would still take it for a consolation, given the loss that we've just suffered. But it is what it is. That's the game of football. You win some, you lose some. It will be a painful one. Bearing in mind what the circumstances were and the sort of fight that those boys put up are really on the day. It's I think they'll be really proud of their performance on the day. If anything, the penalty shootout that just did not go their way, really. So anyways, Amir, allow me to have our audios tested just to make sure everything checks out before we proceed any further. But I think I'd want to assume we are good to go in as far as this broadcast is concerned. It's been a long day, to say the least. And from a football fan's perspective, I'm sure all of you will understand. Good evening, Summer Banks. Good to have you on the broadcast. I hope you're doing okay. Hope you've had a wonderful day. And I hope you do not belong to Summer Banks. But yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on this broadcast. I know I made a promise to 10 United Road 10 and the rest of the Football Tribe UG fans who follow us diligently, who dedicate their time, that I would come here and do this broadcast regardless of what the result was. And that's basically why I'm here, to do the review of the UEFA Champions League final. PSG become the second team after Real Madrid to win back-to-back UEFA Champions League titles. But more importantly, they become the first team to win it for the first time and then win it back-to-back. So they won it last year and then they've won it this year. So congratulations, Team PSG. Well deserved in terms as far as the penalty shootout went. In as far as the open game went, I thought it was a 50-50. Arsenal never felt like they were in control of the game, but they never felt they were out of the game, So it's sort of the kind of game that we had expected. A very controlled game, particularly from Arsenal side. And majority of the footballing world, especially the neutrals and those that were rooting for PSG, some thought it was going to be a rout for PSG. They thought we were going to have it easy. But I think Arsenal getting that early goal through Kai Havertz, I think in as early as the 6th minute, did just enough to calm whatever nerves there might have been on that Arsenal side. So it's at the end of the day, I think we had a game worthy of a final. One of the fears of maybe an everyday football fan, and by that I mean a neutral fan, was that we probably would have been destined for the kind of rout that we had last year when PSG beat Inter Milan by 5-0. I saw predictions of 3-0 or 4-0 in favor of PSG, but it was far from that. It didn't even seem that it was ever going to be close to that. So really, it is what it is. Okay, Reluctant Gamer says Arsenal nearly did it. That's true. They nearly got there. And I've seen a simple quote from Mikel Arteta. I think he was being asked how he feels now, and he said, "I feel pain." I think that summarizes what every Arsenal fan out there must be feeling, but also a part. You see, it's really hard to find positives when you've lost, especially at a final. If it is any game prior to the final or a league game, That's okay. It's easy to find the positives. But when you lose a final, it's really, really hard to say, at least I'll hold on to this as a positive out of that game. So that's the unfortunate bit. But I think upon reflection, when the nerves calm down, when the pain subsides, when the dust settles down, people will look back to that final, and particularly Arsenal fans, and appreciate that it was a worthy fight, that one, they lost to a worthy opponent, that they came so close, just like it had been for them in 2006. It will still be painful nonetheless, but there'll be that sort of acknowledgement that they put up a good fight in a way. So Summerbank says, okay, an AHA member for sure. Ain't an AHA member for sure. Oh, thank God. Jesus Christ. For those of you that are not familiar with what AHA means, which is AHA, it's Arsenal Haters Association. It's something, Jesus Christ. For those of you that are constantly wondering why Arsenal is, I don't know, very unpopular amongst other football fans, beyond their fans, I just can't explain it. But at least in Uganda, you had those that came to the conclusion that they hate Arsenal or dislike Arsenal enough to create that sort of association. And it is what it is. It's football, it's life. That's, sometimes people enjoy the banter of it. Others, where I was watching the game from, of course, the environment was a bit, the space was packed. People came up in large numbers, but I saw a lady that was sort of carried out. I think she had fainted, and this was many minutes after the game. I do not know particularly what happened, but I saw faces that appeared distraught. I saw somebody that needed an extra bit of aeration. I saw somebody consoling another. It was a gentleman consoling a lady in the aftermath of the game, in the Arsenal sort of space. So that, I think that sums up the sort of disappointment that football fans get when they lose games, and more importantly, when they lose finals. Hi, Viola. Good to have you here. I'm happy, guys. It's very unfortunate. Anyways, but it is what it is. I watched the game with a couple of Chelsea fans, and I think Mildred, Chelsea, Anando, thank you guys for the company, by the way. I do not know. Okay, Liverpool Bay is a Liverpool fan. Julie is a Manchester United fan. There was a Manchester City fan, my friend Duncan, and a lot of other people. Some familiar, and Sports Hub, I think, SK from TikTok. For those of you that are familiar with some of these names, who else? There's Sports Hub 2, and then there's Sports Hub, then there's Sports Hub 2. Both of them had the chance to at least meet them after the game. So, but it was a beautiful game of football. Summerbank says, can you please spare time and explain World Sevens football for the Women Super League? Unfortunately, Summer Banks, allow me to reserve that topic for tomorrow, for tomorrow's broadcast, particularly because I wanted to do this one justice in the context of speaking about the Champions League final and everything that it came with. Like I said, it culminated into a defeat for the Arsenal, but on the other side, a lot of banter for those that were, not in support of Arsenal and things like that. Okay, what a game. What a game indeed. Totugata. That is oh, Jesus Christ. Summer Banks, come on. I'm really trying my best. I'm trying to have the best recollection of the people that I had the chance to interact with in that sort of cramped up space that we did occupy. Anyways, next season better, hopefully. My friends, I ask you, Sifa. Jesus Christ. Viola, I hope you're doing okay. And wherever Becky is, my greetings. Tell her not to. Now, guess what? I don't know. Is it suffice to call some people hypocrites? I'm trying to, because I'm sort of short of a word to use for this particular term. And why? why am I looking for the right word to use? But for lack of a better word, and I hope they'll forgive me for using the sort of language that I'm about to use. I interacted with a section of fans who are non-Arsenal fans who are wishing Arsenal well, but celebrated when Arsenal lost. And I was thinking to myself, what level of hypocrisy is this? You know, Gabi made me cry. Sorry about that, Sagi. You're not the only one. There's somebody that cried, I think, after was the guy that missed Arsenal's first penalty. I'm even trying to remember because it was bad. It was bad. Like, penalties are missed, but sometimes how you miss them is also very important in people understanding your context. There's missing a penalty when the goalkeeper has been really, really good, and it just didn't feel that way. Yes, it was the Eze penalty. There's that fun that was shown on the screen, and as soon as Eze misses that penalty, because he fired his penalty wide of the mark, not anywhere even on target that it was saved, but it was wide of the post, and it was a poor penalty, to say the least. It was simply a poor penalty. And so, but like I say, let me get back to the people that, guys, the thing about football, anyway, it is what it is. Sometimes you're halfway there and halfway not there. So you had a section of fans that are well-wishers who had their reasons for supporting Arsenal, that they hope that they win. But now that they did not win, surprisingly or unfortunately, depending on which way you slice it, they celebrated their defeat. And I was thinking to myself, come on, can't you sort of hide the hypocrisy? But anyways, I think the disappointment came in different measures for them, and in comparison maybe to the Arsenal fans, because there are those that did not want to see the dominancy of PSG in the competition and had wished for Arsenal to win. Others, it was for their friends, etc., and what the occasion would have meant had Arsenal won. And as soon as Arsenal lost, literally the place ran empty. In a couple of minutes, the place ran empty. It was a quick exodus as soon as Gabriel Magalhaes missed that final penalty. And it was a poor penalty, by the way, from him as well. But I remember, as soon as he stepped up to go and take the penalty, I remember telling my neighbor, somebody that I do not even know, I remember telling them, it feels like 2008 all over again. Why? Because Manchester United against Chelsea, remember the final Chelsea penalty was being taken by John Terry, and unfortunately for him, he slipped. So he ended up missing the penalty. Subsequently, Manchester United won the UEFA Champions League title that campaign. So that's what it felt like as soon as I stepped out. As they're thinking to myself, of all people, a defender to be the last person to take this penalty, it just didn't feel right. It just did not feel right. It had that thing. And I remember putting on my WhatsApp status, for those that at least share my contact will know for an absolute fact, because at least somebody responded to it. As soon as the game went into penalties, I put out a post or a status to say, congratulations to PSG, because I know for a fact that penalties are 50-50. It can go either way. But given the amount of fight that Arsenal had throughout the entirety of that game, it almost felt that the game going into penalties, they had virtually lost it. And I looked at that sort of lineup of players that did not get the opportunity to take a penalty, and I was thinking to myself, okay, Martin Odegaard is already off, Bukayo Saka is already off, Kai Havertz is already off. So, I mean, it's just not as simple as you would want to think of it, that that there were a lot other better penalty takers on the day. It is what it is, because the same way Eze, an attacking midfielder, missed, is the same way Gabriel Magalhaes, a defender, missed. So as much as it is unfortunate, it is what it is. So, okay. Eze, yeah. So you happy? For me, as a PSG fan, am I happy for you as a PSG fan? No, I'm not happy PSG won. It's a simple statement of fact that they won, and therefore congratulations, well deserved. From where I come from, when your opponent beats you in a fight, you congratulate them upon their triumph. As opposed to trying to rub shoulders with them in sort of a riff-raff manner. So that's not my emoji. Sabiti Tom says hi. Hi, Sabiti Tom. Why are you joining us from Sabiti? So let's go to the game in itself. For PSG, their starting 11 remained unchanged from the team that started last year in terms of the 10 outfielded players in last year's final. The only substitute here was Gianluigi Donnarumma. Of course, he left the club to join Manchester City, and then it was Matevi Safonov. For the Arsenal, so it was Marquinhos, Willian Pacho, Achraf Hakimi, Nuno Mendes, Fabian Ruiz, Vitinha, Joao Neves, Dembele, Kivicha Kvaratskhelia, and Desiree Doué. That's the lineup that started. On the Arsenal side, I was a bit surprised seeing Christian Mosquera start the game, but I also understood why he started. Pierre Hincapié started the game. I watched, of course, Gabriel Magalhaes and William Saliba with David Raya in goal. Then in midfield, it was Miles Lewis-Kelly, who, by the way, had a very, very good performance on the day. Declan Rice, Martin Odegaard, Kai Havertz, Bukayo Saka, and Leandro Trossard. Leandro Trossard, too, had a fairly good game. Really, really good game. So once they set out, my fears had been with Christian Mosquera of how he would cope down that, right flank, on how he would try and tame Kivicha Kvaratskhelia. But he did really, really well. I think he surpassed my own expectations in the way he handled that situation. Obviously, at the end of it, you could make the argument or case that Kivicha Kvaratskhelia did a number on him or got one over him when he, won that penalty eventually that helped PSG restore parity in the second half, and that was in the 65th minute. Of course, the penalties won around the 63rd minute. Then in the game itself, once Arsenal go on to score, I don't know if the credit is deserved to give it to Leandro Trossard for the assist, but it was a blocked clearance by Leandro Trossard, which goes off his arm, and I've seen a couple of people question that to say, is that not a handball? I mean, you'd have to be really, really harsh. I was going to use some derogatory language, but thank God I self-corrected there. You would have to really, really be harsh not to appreciate the fact that Leandro Trossard's hands or arms were in a natural position when that ball is deflected in Kai Havertz's direction, and then he goes on to score, So he scores brilliant goal, sort of a tight angle at the near post to beat Matevi Safonov, and it's 1-0. Good goal. And then Arsenal sort of deployed their game plan where they were not going to be overly committal. In terms of the counter press to PSG, they were going to sit in this sort of low block and deny PSG that direct line through the middle. They looked to push them to the wings to try and force them into maybe floating balls into the box. Why? Because they knew they had the height advantage in the box. They knew PSG did not have the good headers of the ball in the box. So oftentimes they pushed them to the sides. And even when they pushed them to the sides, it almost felt like rugby, how, I don't know how it's called, when those guys gather together in sort of a pack of wolves, more like, to try and defend against the other team in a push. So they sort of moved in a very, very tight shape to deny any line-breaking passes that PSG would have attempted. PSG attempted a couple that went through, but again, Arsenal recovered really, really well in terms of their defensive solidity. So it was really, really impressive for the entirety of the first half. One of my upside observations about this Arsenal side was there's a lot of time wasting, especially when it came to throw-ins. It was a bit frustrating, even for me as an Arsenal fan. I was thinking to myself, come on, guys, you're wasting too much time there. Get on with it. I understand why you deploy the tactic, but you just do not have to overdo it. Okay, Arteta's squad is strong. Of course, PSG scored 6 goals in the semis. In the semi-finals, defense stopped them. Mosquera had a good game. Indeed, Summer Banks. Wow, interesting observation and take there. Adash says, hi, Gabriel. Then Summerbank says, what of Saka's incident? Wasn't it a handball? I was coming to that. So then you had a very good clearance from Gabriel Magalhaes in the first half. Then the incident involving Bukayo Saka. Now, I found that very, very questionable. And I was hoping against hope because I put a question online that can somebody explain to me why that is not a penalty? Because the ball hits his arm in the first instance, and then it goes off that very arm to hit another arm that appears to be off of his body. I do not know what the referee's interpretation of that is. I do not know whether he thinks that the ball has brushed any other part of Bukayo Saka's body part before it hits the arm. I just do not know because I've watched the replay and it appears as he attempts to kick the ball, he does miscue it. Now, because of his motion in attempting to kick the ball, and this is what I say about handballs. It's sometimes very frustrating to digest, especially bearing in mind how our arms respond to motion. They sort of move in tandem with the rest of the body, depending on whatever the action is. And sometimes it comes off as a quick reflex. So in that, I do not know how it gets excused. I do not know whether the referee's interpretation is that he's genuinely trying to kick the ball, he does miscue it, and then it hits his other part of the body, which is the arms. I just do not know. And I was thinking, as soon as I saw it, and with PSG appealing for it, I was thinking, well, we're going to go to VAR, this penalty is going to be awarded. Eventually, that's not what happened. And your guess is as good as mine. I do not know whether VAR did not deem it to be a clear and obvious error from the referee, or they had a mini chat with the referee to say, I saw that, but this is my interpretation of it, therefore I waved it away. I just can't tell you why, particularly. So that takes me to the continuity about the conversation, the referee. I think he tried his best to handle the game the best way possible that he could. But oftentimes you felt that he let some bad incidents slide and then let others, and then called some simple ones in a way. Overall, I thought he did really, really well. But sometimes, you know this this thing that players do, especially forwards, leaning into a defender when the ball is coming, and they try to make it like they've been fouled by the defender. He was not having that nonsense. He never gave any of them for a foul unless he felt it was a genuine foul. And I remember Kai Havertz did that a couple of times. And I was thinking to myself, come on, Kai Havertz, you've done it enough to know that the referee is not going to call this in your favor. Get on with it. Find a different way to beat your defender. And sometimes it felt that he would watch the ball come inside and then focus his attention on the defender as opposed to the ball and where the ball would land. So eventually he would end up committing a foul. He did that against Willian Pacho in one of the incidents, and I found that really, really questionable. Anyways, so for the Bukayo Saka incident, your guess is as good as mine. I did not understand why it was not given as a penalty. I did not understand why if it was reviewed or why it wasn't reviewed. I just do not know, because they did not show that moment that many times, even though we had a replay of it. Okay, Gabriel means son of God. Oh, God with a small g or God with a capital G? Adash, help me understand. But thank you so much. It's good to thank you so much for that clarification. Okay, are you a diehard fan of football? Isn't it evident enough? Isn't it evident enough that I am? Really, because ordinarily, my team having lost, maybe I would not find the courage to be here. But I have a good appreciation for the game enough for me to summon my courage to get on here and have this conversation with you guys. But I completely understand why you'd question it either way. So, but it is what it is. Okay, Zahara. Oh, wait. What are your thoughts on FC Regions? Adash, indulge me on that one. Zaharan says Gabriel is the name of an angel, actually Jibril. Okay, Angel Gabriel, okay. Well, looks like Angel Gabriel did not come to the rescue of his namesake today. Usually angels come with good news. Summerbank says it was reviewed because to them. Now, like I said, the review of it usually, okay, from what we are accustomed of a review is, a pause in the game and then, the review of the incident, or sometimes get to send the referee to the pitch side monitor. That wasn't the case. So maybe that's where I'm coming from to say I do not know whether it was reviewed. But I know for a fact that somebody must have looked at it. Maybe they concurred with the on-field decision that the referee had given. Something like that. Okay, the replay was displayed at the start of the second half, and even at halftime, though the referee did not intervene. Okay, United Road 10 says, hello, hey, United Road 10, a pleasure to have you back on the broadcast. So I told you, I promise is the date. I promise you I'll be here, regardless of what the final result would have been. And so it is what it is. So, but PSG had they muted the entire first half. Arsenal really dug in deep to deny them even a shot on target in the opening half of the game. It's in the second half that they sort of found those spaces. Football won today. Okay. It's in the second half after, and this is particularly after Arsenal considered the equalizer for that penalty. They started to commit more numbers up front, and eventually or subsequently, they started to give away a bit of spaces that PSG could look to exploit. And they had a couple of chances, or you could call them half chances, but at the end of the day, they had about 4 shots on target. Bradley Bacola, Vitinha were some of those that fired wide. Then you had Bradley Bacola go through, out-racing or outpacing William Saliba and David Raya with a brilliant save there. I mean, that could have gone in more ways than one, because when David Raya comes out for that ball, it's a bit, the ball is, the anticipation was really good from him, because when you watch him, he takes a step forward and then he takes a pause as if not sure whether he can get to the ball fast than Bradley Bacola. But then there's that extra touch that Bacola takes that sort of puts the ball a bit in no man's land. And he decides to quickly dash for it. And he was able to get to that ball. It really was a brilliant save. Otherwise, I think that game, that would have been perhaps the moment that separated the two sides. But more importantly, you also had Kai Havertz miss a chance in the first half. I think you remember when was it William Pacho or Marquinhos collided with Matevi Safanov, hitting the back of his head for him to need a bit of treatment on the pitch. Yeah, that cross from Bukayo Saka was right on the money. I think it was Leandro Trossard trying to get to that moment. And then Kai Havertz had his own moment in which Marquinhos deflected the attempt. Arsenal had a good build-up play down that right wing. So they had some good moments in there, even though there were not many moments that you sort of reflect on and say, that was really close. Others were in the second half, one of them being a set-piece play. The ball, I think, was flicked on. Was it by Victor Gyökeres into backwards, and then Joao Neves, it sort of fumbled in the area, and Joao Neves clears. So it was a game of very few chances. Both teams, I think, respected each other enough to know that you're not going to be overly committal in terms of how you attack your opponent. So there's a lot of that. Okay. You look like Moses. Moses from the Bible. United Road, Summerbank stating United Road, you sound happy. United Road is happy. He belongs to AHA. United Road belongs to AHA, the Arsenal Haters Association. I'm very happy. It's completely understandable. Bradley Bacola, I mean, he had a couple of chances, but he could not buy any. But again, at the end of the day, all that will not matter because they won and they're the champions of Europe. So it will matter less what they missed in normal time. PSG dominated possession to the tune of 75% compared to Arsenal's 25%, which speaks to the sort of strategy that I told you about, how they sat in a low block constantly, and to try to defend as well as possible. And it's in the second half that they tried to open up a bit. At one point, they had fair possession to the tune of 48%. But again, they realized they cannot keep it up for long. So, they had to retreat back in their own shape. A part of the reasons why they did not compete favorably well in the extra time, they were literally playing with a man less. Why? Pierre Hincapi had suffered an injury and he was requesting to be withdrawn. At least Gabriel Magalhaes appealed for that, not knowing that the substitutions had been done. And because they had brought on Victor Gyökeres, they had brought on Ebeleche Eze, they had brought on Martin Zubimendi, they had brought on Gabriel Martinelli, they had brought on Noni Madueke, as well as Yurian Timber, who came in for Christian Mosquera after the penalty incident. So he had to play the 20 minutes through injury. And whereas the defense were alert to that, I felt sometimes the collectiveness of the team had lapses in concentration, in remembering that he needed cover. Gabriel Martinelli had to literally play left back. So that cost Arsenal going forward, and he could not contribute to them going forward. And I think, I don't want to really say it's Mikel Arteta's fault, but I think his judgment could have been better, knowing that anything can happen, that you ought to reserve that extra, substitution, just in case something happens, something like that. You never know if they had somebody more fresher at left back, but it is what it is, Okay, so corner kicks were 11-3. PSG really, really did well in limiting Arsenal corner kicks and set pieces, because they knew there inlay the danger that Arsenal could hurt them with that. So, okay, Zubi and Madueke should be ashamed of themselves. Why? Letting Gabriel take the penalty before them. Well, I mean, you remember Gabriel Magalhaes is part of the leadership group. And at the time, Martin Odegaard and Bukayo Saka were already off of the pitch. So Declan Rice, who was wearing the captain's armband, and Gabriel Magalhaes were the only two players as part of the leadership group that had remained on the pitch. So according to Mikel Arteta, he requested to take the penalty. And as a leader, one would say, okay, maybe the manager has the final say about it. But he felt confident enough to take it. But he missed. It happens to anybody. It was a poor penalty. I will acknowledge just as much. Just like Eze's penalty was really, really poor. But it can happen to anybody. We've seen the greatest of stars miss penalties at crucial times. So I do not want to hold that too much on their heads. I do not want to be like a section of England fans that decided it was they should have Bukayo Saka, Marcus Rashford's heads on the spike simply because they had missed penalties in Euro 2020 that was played in 2021 when they eventually lost to Italy in the finals. So I would not want to take myself down that sort of path. Okay. The FIFA World Cup is approaching, and any special mention from your side? Yeah, the FIFA World Cup is fast approaching, obviously. Today being the 31st, because it's already Sunday in my part of the world, is that we have 10 days to the kickoff. A lot of attention in as far as European football fans has still been on, this Champions League final. And now that it's out of the way, we'll get full-blown into discussing the situation with the World Cup and what it will be. We'll get to look at some of the teams and the players that they've summoned, what it means. Are there any injury concerns? The other day I was telling you about Neymar Santos Jr.'s injury, that he has been ruled out for about 2 to 3 weeks. Meanwhile, that coincided with me watching a video clip. I do not know from what country or what section of people or group of people who seem to have been practicing juju or sorcery or witchcraft, whatever you may want to call it, on Neymar. They were using his shirt and somebody, they were using a dummy of a representation of Neymar Santos Jr., and somebody was, kind of like appeared to be stabbing on the calf somewhere and things like that. I do not know if that works in that part of the world. I cannot speak with absolute certainty about whether it's coincidental that he suffered an injury, but he's been ruled out for a period of 2 to 3 weeks, and chances are that he will miss Brazil's first game against Morocco. So that's part of the World Cup news. Okay, then Summerbank says talk about Kai's big moment, clutch, and Arteta starting him over Gyökeres. I think the writing for me was on the wall in regards to who would have started in that game. It was definitely going to be Kai Havertz, and the reason is simple. Mikel Arteta, he's been known to rely on Kai Havertz, especially in big games or for big moments. He has a reason as why he prefers him. His holder play overall is better than that of Victor Gyökeres. I'll give it to him. But he's one of those players that is capable of turning up in a big game, and today he did turn up. Unfortunately for him, on the second time of asking, he fell short for that attempt that was blocked out by Marquinhos before, I don't know if it was collected by Matej Safanov eventually. So, but yeah, for me, I did expect that one. Why? Because he needed somebody that could drift back really, really deep and help with the defensive shield. Yes, Victor Gyökeres can drift, but you saw even when there's a moment in the second half when he concedes possession and PSG going to counterattack, and he had to pull somebody's shoulder. I don't remember who exactly, but he had to commit that sort of tactical foul to impede PSG's progress towards the Arsenal goal. So, I think Mikel Arteta was really, really well justified. Sir Ryan says, decent game, at least better than last year, which was won in the last 45 minutes. Was it one in the last 45 minutes? Last year's final, I think it was 2-0 by the 20th minute. Remember, Achraf Hakimi scored, I think, around the 12th minute, and by the 20th minute, Desli Due had scored to make it 2-0. So, at the end of the day, we had a routing of a 5-0 drubbing for Inter Milan. Saran, you say Gabriel is full of that word. Happy it was him who lost it all season, fighting with everyone. Okay, that is Saran. Saran has no kind words for Gabriel Magalhaes, and he's glad that it is him that missed the final penalty. The final penalty wasn't the winning penalty, but it was the one that was meant to keep Arsenal in the shootout. But it is what it is. I, for one, will not hold much against him, even though the penalty in itself, I will acknowledge just as much that it was a poor penalty. You can't use leadership to take a penalty. Remember Tierney as well, maximum leader that should take is a defender, midfielder at most. Now, first of all, I appreciate any player who takes responsibility of a moment, because I know for a fact that a lot of players stay away from big penalty moments. They stay away from those penalties. Why? Because they know it can go either way. And usually, if you miss that penalty, it's going to feel like the entire world is falling on his shoulders, especially in respect to your football fans. I've just cited you the example of the England national team when they lost out on the penalty shootout against Italy in 2021 at Wembley. You remember in the aftermath of the sort of level of derogatory treatment and racial abuse that Bukayo Saka, Marcus Rashford, and other players were treated with, Why? Because they had missed penalties. So I know for a fact that even those that you'd believe that are good enough to take the penalties, when it comes to that pressure moment, some would prefer to stay away. Some would prefer to abstain. They just do not want to put themselves in that sort of firing line, So, yes, he requested for it, to take it, but still, I appreciate that the decision lay with his manager to decide who took it. In requesting it, the manager simply acknowledged somebody wanting to take responsibility and said, there you have it. Had he had Kai Havertz on the pitch, had he had Martin Odegaard on the pitch, I do not think Gabriel Magalhaes would have been taking a penalty. I do not think so. I do not remember the exact season, but a couple of good years ago, anywhere around 2007 or 2008 thereabout, when Arsenal met AC Roma in the UEFA Champions League round of 16, and they had to do penalties. Among the penalty takers were defenders, so they can score them. Nuno Mendes missed his penalty. He's a defender. But Achraf Hakimi scored. He's a defender. So it's not about the position that he plays in the pitch. Because if he had scored, we would not be focusing on his position. So yes, I appreciate that if I were in Mikel Arteta's shoes, maybe I would have chosen differently. But I do not want to hang it there as if it's a make or break tie. Because Eze missed his penalty. He's an attacking midfielder. We cited that. So it could have gone either way. Penalties are 50-50s, It's a huge gamble. When you get them spot on, you win. If you get them wrong, you lose. So for me, it boils down to that. Okay, and by the way, it's not like Arsenal have been involved in so many penalty situations that they would have had the experience of knowing these are our outright penalty takers, in terms of how good they would be. Okay, United Road, you say, if you're a centre back, I do not, and Madueke were hiding behind Gabriel is a leader excuse. I do not think they were hiding, but like I've told you, I do not want to speak for them to say they were hiding. I do not know the kind of conversation they had during that moment when it came to selecting players that were going to take the penalties. But I've simply cited it for you. I'll give you an example. Asamoah Gyan missed his penalty against Uruguay in the 2010 World Cup for Ghana, so against Uruguay. You remember when Luis Suarez handled that ball that was destined for the back of the net. Eventually, Asamoah Gyan misses the resultant penalty. Do you know the sort of lashback he had from the Ghanaian fans? And from then on, he shied away from taking penalties. Why? Because he had missed a huge penalty moment, and it sort of lived with him for the rest of his footballing career, and perhaps by extension for the rest of his life. It will live with him, because if he had scored that penalty, I think Ghana would have been going to what was the semi-finals. So that happens. By the way, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't Cristiano Ronaldo miss his penalty shoot in the 2008 World Cup? UEFA Champions League final? United wrote 10. Please jog my memory on that one. But I seem to remember him missing his penalty. And if he indeed he did, and John Terry also missed, had it to do with the positions that they played? I don't want to think so. Sometimes it just doesn't happen for you. Sometimes the goalkeeper is good. Sometimes you misfire. Today, Gabriel Eze misfired. They put their balls wide. It's as simple as that. Okay. United Road responding to Sai Ryan says, I agree, he's a cheat. That Gabriel, okay. What's your thoughts on Lamine Yamal? Lamine Yamal, very decent player. He's had his hamstring issues, and reports do suggest that he will miss the first game, if not the first two games of the World Cup. He's a very, very integral player to Spain, especially given that they play with that outright sort of target man of a goal scorer that will promise you at least almost a goal every game. They do play with Mikel Oyarzabal and sometimes Mikel Merino and a couple of others as their false nines and things like that. But I know for a fact that Mikel Oyarzabal is a striker at Real Sociedad. But he will be missed, I think, for those opening games, because how you start can be really, really pivotal in a competition like the World Cup, because it may give you the confidence that you need. It's not to say that if you lose the first game or drop points in the opening game, it means you cannot make it. I mean, Spain lost their first game at the 2010 World Cup. I think it was against Honduras. Was it against Honduras? No. Was it against Honduras or no? Most probably, maybe Switzerland. I stand to be corrected. What the opponent they lost to at the World Cup 2010. Let me see. Let me try and look it up in a bit. And I see who the opponent was. So it's not a full goal conclusion. Yes, it was Switzerland. They lost by 1-0. I remember because I'd placed a bet on that game at the time. But for the rest of the tournament, they were brilliant. So Spain will be without Lamine Yamal for the start of the World Cup, unless otherwise. Okay. Okay. One more time, we're gonna celebrate all day, all night with Joshua Zirkzee. That's from Sir Ryan. I could sense Eze's nerves under pressure. He must have felt the whole world was watching. I feel for him, but he will be all right. Yeah, the way he goes into that penalty, you could feel the pressure on his shoulders. And the way he takes it, it's simply poor. It's simply a poor penalty, but better next time, if there will be a next time for him. Adash says Ousmane Dembele needs a break. What do you mean he needs a break? He's not played a lot of football this season. What do you mean he needs a break? He appeared to touch it, to hold his hamstring at some point in the game, and then in another moment it felt like it was his calf. I do not know, but he will be okay. I think he will be okay. First of all, Dembele is an injury-prone player. It's not started today that he will miss games due to injury. It's happened to him at multiple stages of his career, and at Barcelona, you would argue it was even worse. So at PSG, he's played more football than possibly he did at Barcelona. When you look at the last 3 consecutive seasons, So, but I think he will be okay. Then, okay, Hakimi is an attacking fullback. Hakimi is an attacking fullback, though not really. Now, that's the same as me saying that Nusa Mazorui is an attacking fullback just because Ruben Amorim used him as such. It's the same as me saying Denzel Dumfries is an attacking fullback just because at Inter Milan he's deployed as such, but at the Dutch national team he's played as a right back. That's just a system thing, How they play you in a system of football is what differentiates it, Patrick Dogo, what's his role or number? He's a left back, but how has he been deployed at Manchester United? As a wing back, as a winger, So it's about how you deploy it, It has very little to do with. There's no. By the way, there's no such a thing as an attacking fullback, like in the definition of it, because you can play. I'll give an example. Look at Alexander Trent-Arnold and Andy Robertson, left and right backs. But because they were creating all the assists, these are fullbacks that love to go in the overlap and make things happen. Alexander Trent-Arnold sometimes inverting into midfield to give you an extra body in that midfield if they need the be. So it's not really to say this is a wing back and this is a fullback. They 1 and 2 are the same thing. It's simply how players are deployed differently. Okay. Chris Valentine is the current best player. Okay. United Road, you say he did miss, but if you are an attacker, then I accept. But a center back is just asking to miss. No. I've seen defenders take penalties. I've seen defenders take penalties and score them. Multiple times. The same way I've seen attackers miss penalties. So it happens. It happens. I seem to remember Mohamed Salah missing a penalty against Galatasaray in the reverse fixture against Anfield. It wasn't the first time he was missing a penalty. I've seen Ousmane Dembele miss a penalty. I've seen Vitinha miss a penalty against Arsenal. So you and I can agree on one thing, that it was a bad penalty. that he took. But when it comes to missing penalties, any player, regardless of where you play on the pitch, you can miss a penalty. Somebody says Neymar is my dad. You cannot be a 30-year-old and Neymar is your dad. It cannot happen. It cannot happen. Okay. Anyways, there's a retracted comment from Sarah Ann, where it says, "Congratulations, PSG. Viola, you'll be fine. I keep congratulating them." I was going to use a term, a phrase that we use on a different forum, but let me not confuse the rest of the audience with that term. Joanne is Quido is a big loss for Uganda. I told you before, Arsenal are going to bottle. Really? Come on, guys. I think sometimes you use the word bottle. I think you misuse it. For some reason, the word bottle is become a representation of any loss in the game. No, that's not what the phrase is supposed to mean. If Arsenal had been leading by 2-0 and PSG won 3-2, I would say they bottled it. But because you lead 1-0 and, I mean, even for Atletico de Madrid, when you take me back to 2014, when Sergio Ramos scores that equalizer in the 94th minute, I cannot say Atletico de Madrid bottled it simply because they ended up losing 4-1 after extra time. No. Let's use the phrases in the rightness or in the correct manner. Aromal, you have retracted your comment. Okay. My team Arsenal lost Saka, was sad. Lost Saka? No, he was withdrawn because he was not. It had come time for him to be withdrawn. He was not having the level of impact that you would have loved him to have. A lot of times he tried to cut. He looked to cut on the inside and then have a crack at it, but he just never found the space. PSG were really, really alert to his danger and they neutralized it perfectly well. Okay. United Road says, okay, so you're saying you bet $1,000 on Gabriel to score a penalty rather than betting on Zubimendi or Madueke? If I had the money, I'd bet on any player scoring a penalty just as much as I would bet on them missing a penalty. Yep. One of the best penalty takers I've seen are defenders. Ainsley Maitland-Niles at Arsenal. He took about 5 or 6 penalties. Never missed any. Always sublime from the spot. He's a defender. Come midfielder. I may not have the perfect recollection of Ryan Giggs, but I seem to remember him missing a penalty. And yet he was one of arguably the most consistently proven players when it came to taking penalties. I've seen Harry Kane miss a penalty. It happens. It happens. It's that simple. Bruno Fernandes, a very, very good penalty taker, but I've seen him miss a penalty. It happens. So it's not really about you being a defender, you being a striker, you being a midfielder. When you miss, you miss. You miss as a football player. You don't miss by the virtue of where you play on the pitch. That's not it. I've seen goalkeepers go on to take penalties and score them, and take even better penalties than midfielders are taken in a game. So push or Arsenal, PSG or Arsenal? What do you mean by PSG or Arsenal? Please be a bit more, shed for me a little bit more light. Be a bit more clear about that. Arman says, still can't accept the loss. No. I've already accepted the loss. I did congratulate PSG for winning. I mean, how many? It's been close on to what? Close on to 3 or hours ever since the game finished, and by now I wouldn't still accept it that they lost. No, 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 no. That's not me. That's not me. That's not how I watch football. That's not how I watch football. Mind you, like I said at the preamble of this video, if you had my contact, you would have seen on my WhatsApp status that I put out, "Congratulations, PSG," as soon as the 120 minutes were done, when it was going to penalties. I simply had that at the back of my mind. Madeline Niles was a winger, though. No, he was never a winger. He was never a winger. He came defender makeshift. He was a midfielder come defender. And predominantly he was used more as a defender than he ever played as a midfielder, particularly at Arsenal. So he was played constantly as a right back. I was crying because we lost. Sorry, it happens. Find a way to pick yourself up and move on. Okay, it's our day, Football One. Arumal, congratulations to football. If that's your perspective of it. Chipe says, "Hi Robert, how are you doing? I'm okay. How about yourself?" Chipe says, "Did know PSG won." Well, they did. 4-3 on post-match penalties that proceeded a 1-1 draw after extra time. Beautiful game of football. We got to enjoy every little bit of a moment for it. It was nervous. It was anxious. It was a game worthy and typical of a final. I can imagine what some of you would have been saying if, let's say, Arsenal had lost by 3-0 or by 3-1 or 4-0 or 4-1. I can imagine the sort of language you'd have chosen to use if that had been the sort of squad, And anyway, whichever the case is, I think it's all to be expected. It's all to be expected. You say, "Fight me." Why would I fight you? About what? Dikeledi, why would I fight you? Give me a reason to. And even if you give me a reason to, I do not think I have it in me to fight people online. I've been here long enough to experience some unkind comments, and yet I still kept my cool. Where are those fans now who used to say soccer is greater than football? Really? Guys, I've told you, stop getting rage, stop falling for rage baits and and engagement baits. It's for example, if let's say I wanted to start up a debate, particularly in let's say it's like me going to say Musa was a better prophet than Muhammad. If I put it out there, I'm not Muslim, but I know Muhammad is credited for much more than Musa. So any Muslim who falls for that will be falling into my engagement trap or rage baiting. So equally, you as a football fan, you owe it yourself to have the discernment to know some things are not worth your time. Some things are just not worth your time. It's simple as that. How many times has PSG been champion? Only twice. This is their second time. The first being last year. So they've won it back to back. They become the first team to win it for the first time and defend it. But in the UEFA Champions League history, they are now the second team to also win it back to back after Real Madrid. Can they do it the third like Real Madrid did it in 2016, 17, and 18? Only time will tell. The Keledi says sorry, and Arsenal have never won it. They've never won it. They're still looking for. They're still looking towards winning it for the very first time in their 140-year history, which now then stretches to 141. Given that they will have to wait until next season. That's if they can have a good run in the same competition. We'll see how it goes. Anyways, I do not think we have any Liverpool fan on here. But in case you guys missed a part of the day, we had an impromptu live broadcast at around 3 p.m. and we're talking about the Liverpool parting ways with Anna Slot. Liverpool decided to cut ties with Arne Slot. After a season review, the conclusion was he's not good enough to continue with the club. So he does leave the club effective immediately. Ibrahim Konate is also leaving. Mo Salah has left. Andy Robertson has left. So, and the last I checked, Andoni Raiola was the outright favorite to replace him at Liverpool. So the 43-year-old Spanish manager is the prime candidate that Liverpool are looking to line up to replace Arne Slot at Liverpool, at the helm of Liverpool. So we'll have to wait and see how things go when the time comes. Okay, so, but there's not many big developments ever since then. Okay, let me read some of your comments before we wrap this one up. It's been 1 hour already, and I have my exhaustion from the grading events of the day. Honorable Raya need to come to Kaiser Chiefs. Raya needs to come to Kaiser Chiefs. Okay, if you have the money, come try and attempt Arsenal into selling. Are you ready for the World Cup? I heard Germany has a strong team. German having a strong team. They're not a weak team. Their pedigree precedes them in the competition, but I do not think they are one of the top 5 or even top 6 strong teams in as far as the competition is concerned. Not in my humble opinion anyway, or in my humble assessment of the multiple squads. I'd say Portugal have a better squad. I would go England, I'll go Spain, I'll go France, Argentina. You never know. Okay. Iraola will bring back a similar rock and roll football to Klopp early seasons. Let's hope so. We can only wait to see how it does transform. But as soon as I saw that news saying that he was the outright candidate to replace Arne Slot, as I reflected on the words, I think it was given by Anton Semenyo, who said sometimes they would play a game of football on Saturday and he's having them training on Sunday. And it's not light training, it's hard grilling training. And that they would beg for days off and he would barely give them the days off. He's a workaholic. He's going to drill you hard. And then it made me reflect on the words from Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. He said he struggled for the first 3 months when he joined Liverpool because based on how they were training at Arsenal, vis-a-vis how they were training under Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool, it felt like the other one was, a holiday in Las Vegas as compared to what they were doing at Liverpool. So we can simply wait and see how things will transpire for them. Okay. Saka needs to go to South Africa. If you have the money, that was funny. Because I do not have the money. I do not have $1,000 to my name. Anyways, at least not for now. In terms of spare change. I know for some of you that's pocket change. For people like United Road 10, $1,000 is pocket change for you. Okay. Aromal says Portugal midfield is crazy. By the way, yeah. Joao Neves, Vitinha, Ruben Neves, Bruno Fernandes, Bernardo Silva, just to mention but a few, Okay, my lunchtime is almost done. Chipes, you say good to see you, Robert. See you next on the next live. Thank you so much, Chipes, for sparing the time to be with us. Rio Dandy says, geez, sir, just got to know Rafael Leao is leaving AC Milan this summer. Wow. What's the destination for Rafael Leao? I mean, he's stagnated there for quite some time. Meanwhile, AC Milan are bound to have conversations or an engagement with Oliver Glasner as a potential candidate to take over. Looks like the deal with Antonio Conte is yet to be sealed. So the jury is still out there. It could be Oliver Glasner taking over at AC Milan. I mean, parting ways with Maximiliano Allegri and taking a bet on Oliver Glasner, who will be coaching in Italian football for the first time. I do not know. I can only hope that it all works out well for him. Okay. And remember, up with the Chivas. Indeed. Okay, interesting. Um, South Africa versus France. South Africa have Mofo Kenge and Kumo and Sibala Bal. Jesus Christ. Tongue twist of a name there. No, I mean you said if the Keledi has the money, if he can sign Raya to because I know. I mean, when was the last time you had an African team going to Europe to sign a player? You know, and not just any player, but the player, the quality and caliber of David Martin Raya. You know, it just doesn't happen. At least not that to the best of my knowledge. Oftentimes it's vice versa because, okay, let's say you went to Arsenal and you wanted to sign David Martin Raya. Do you think you're going to sign him for less than 30 million pounds? How many African clubs have 30 million pounds on them to spare to sign just a single player? I do not think there is any, by the way, no matter how rich many of them are. You know, so okay. Rio Dandy says Fabrizio Romano confirmed the news. Liao is leaving, confirmed. The question for me is, yes, he's leaving, but leaving to where? What club is he going to land to? He's a very good guy, by the way. He's a very good player. I think in a better team, he will, you know, he just needs to be overall be consistent across a campaign. He's what? Only 26 years of age. They're about 25, 26, you know, at the moment. Okay, Liao should join Chelsea. Chelsea, you have so many wingers. You have so many. And he's not left-footed. He's right-footed. You're already signing Jovan Quenda. You have Jamie Gittens. You have Garnacho. You have so many. Why would you be needing Rafael Liao? He will be an upgrade to many of those that you have. But who are you dropping? You know? Dikeledi says, I have 12. Okay. Good luck to you. Make the pitch. Actually, do not just sign Martin Raya, just sign the entire Arsenal team and take them to Kaiser Chiefs. You know? Anyways, guys, okay. We need real wingers who can play football. Liao has it. Complete a playmaker and flair Chelsea needs. He's a good player. At AC Milan, he's been played in a twin with Christian Pulisic sometimes, and he's delivered. He may not be the most consistent guy you're going to find there, but his athleticism is really, really good. You're crazy, United. His athleticism, his like pace and industriousness is really good, and he's not so injury prone. So he's a good player. He's a good player. Okay, guys, it's been a pleasure doing this with you. United Road 10, Dikeledi, Rio Dandy, Sarayan, Chipes, Aromal, Viola, Summerbanks, Adash, who else? You know? Reluctant Gamer, Abdul Wahid. Thank you so much, guys, for having been part of tonight's broadcast. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for always making it worthwhile for me, for keeping me company, for dedicating your time to be part of these broadcasts, for whatever amount of time that you choose to spare to be part of them. I really, really appreciate. And as much as you, for those of you that are enjoying PSG's victory, as for as long as you relish in the banter of it, I hope you find the kindness and in you to extend me the courtesy of not sort of rubbing it in too much, especially now that I have found the courage to do this broadcast. But it's always a pleasure. Unfortunately, on Sunday mornings, we do not have morning broadcasts, so we do only do the Sunday night broadcasts. But please, also spare the time to go over to the channel and watch all those videos that we do put out. And leave me a comment when you watch that video. Kindly leave me a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are, and I'll be there to respond to you. And perhaps maybe your insight will give us a topic for the next round of conversations. You never know. Vilakazi and Ronaldo and you. Okay. Vilakazi. The Kennedy, are you Zulu or are you Kosa? Kosa. Anyways, thank you so much, guys, for having been part of tonight's podcast. I wish you the very best of the Sunday and the rest of the weekend. May God reward you with your utmost desires. Peace. Stay blessed. Bye bye for now.